Sure, sure. Okay. So hello everyone. So maybe I'll start with a brief intro about myself. So currently it's been about 3 years. I've been running a company called Ecowiser. The primary objective is to one, make it easy for brands to improve their sustainability practices and ensure they're also compliant with the different norms with regard to sustainability, primarily focused on the US and European markets, where there are a lot more legislations to make sure that you can't make any claims without backing with evidence. Especially there's this EU Green Claims Initiative, and also on the consumer side, we have a platform where we showcase different sustainable alternatives to help consumers choose more sustainable options. Again, primarily focused on the US and English-speaking parts of EU, and uh, primary reason I started Ecovisor was and climate change was like a pressing issue, and I was trying to see what I could be doing with regards to addressing that. And before I dig in deeper, maybe I'll just walk you through my own journey as to why I'm doing this, how I came about doing this, right? Before this, I worked for about 10 years. I started off my career with Google. I was there for about 6 years. First 2 years, I was in the payment space, figuring out how we could increase transactions and also reduce fraud online. Post that, I was in the digital space, marketing side of Google, where mostly trying to explore what kind of solutions would help companies grow online using Google solutions. So I was there for about 4 years there across different roles, account management, and also managing a team. On the side, also was involved with like learning and development initiatives at Google, and also mindfulness and meditation sessions. I was also involved with teaching a course called Search Inside Yourself, which is basically like a leadership course, which happens over 2.5 days, where you use different tools such as breath watching, body scan, journaling, other things to help develop your emotional intelligence, which helps you become more effective leader. So that is something else I did. Post that, I had gone to do an MBA at INSEAD, and then I was working in Singapore and the US at a company called Danaher in the water space, mostly again in customer journey, e-commerce, and market research domains. I was there for about 2 years. Post that, again, while I was having some impact, I really wanted to see how my work could have more impact, and I really wanted to work on more pressing issues, and especially related to environment. So I moved back to India around mid 2019, and then I was exploring about what can we be done about climate change. So I started exploring agriculture. Actually, I started doing. I spoke to a lot of farmers to understand the pressing issues, because uh, agriculture contributes about 20-25% of carbon emissions, and India primarily is like a very most people are in agriculture. So, and was trying to see how can we help more farmers transition to organic cultivation. So I spent about 6 months speaking to a lot of farmers, doing a bunch of different courses in organic farming, and the biggest driver would be like if you can increase farmer revenues through organic. So I post that I spent 2 seasons doing farming myself to understand what is feasible. I did this multi-layer farming where you do 4-5 levels of crop through which you get more yields. Did that for a couple of seasons. While the yields were okay, I found it like a couple of big challenges I faced. One was like, how do you scale, like, enable farmers to transition? For that, you really need, uh, I realize you need government support to make the transition happen, because it takes 2-3 years to transition, and uh, during that time, farmers need the support to be able to transition. And the second thing was also a lot more consumers. There's not as much demand for the produce, and also a lot of people are suspicious whether this is really good or this is just being greenwashing and all. So also I was trying to leverage, see of my own skill sets, what I had that might be that I could do based on that. And most of my skills are in the digital space. So I thought maybe I can focus on like how do we educate consumers to choose better options and educate them on differentiating what is good and what is not so good. So, and then that's how I thought of Ecowiser. So that's just broadly been my journey. Uh, Mostly try to focus on doing things that I cared about through my career, and even these explorations that I did on the side at Google, right, where you used to do this learning and development or mindfulness meditation, mostly just exploring personal interests and trying to see what might be useful for others. During this time, I also used to work with a couple of nonprofits. One of them was in the water space. where building these biosand water filters, low cost drinking water solutions. So I've just generally, one thing that's really helped me is just following my curiosity. Whatever I felt made sense, I would just go ahead and try it out on the side. So that's how a lot of things happen. So I think I'll pause here. Maybe should we take any questions? I'm not a big fan of just monologue speaking. I prefer it to be engaging. Uh, so if I can probably also start off with Raghuvir's question. So Raghuveer, where is this question stemming from? Like maybe you can share a little bit about yourself also, so I also understand better, and I'll try to customize it based on your current situation.
Currently, I am my role in Deep Thought is as a data champion, but as of now, we are working on cross-functional domains. So
Okay.
as of now, we are I'm also indulged in creating white papers, case studies, and so on. So other than
Right.
this, I'm also working on assisting one of my team member who is working on creating a web scraper, a LinkedIn scraper.
Mm-hmm.
So for that, what the bottlenecks that we were having was somewhat technical. Like on the basis of like if I go to into details, that would may take 10 to 15 minutes if I would
Okay,
just
that's
say
okay.
RAM and all. So it's mainly because what kind of packages should we use and how should we pinpoint like what will be beneficial for me and my team to efficiently get what we want, to efficiently
Right.
achieve
Right.
what exactly we want based on our task, based on our deliverables.
Got
So
it. Got
yeah,
it.
so for that we are facing various bottlenecks.
Got it.
So I
Okay,
just
maybe I'll
wanted
just
to.
give an example. This was actually just today. I was just discussing with a team member. Our revenue month on month this month has been slightly lower compared to last month. So the problem solving process that it's basically asking five whys. Drilling down. Okay, why was this month lower? Right. First thing was fewer calls were booked. Okay, in terms of business calls. Why were fewer calls booked? Right. Uh, One was there's lesser outreach that we did. And another reason that we also noticed was that not in as many brands booked calls. Why didn't as many brands not book calls? Is because there's also holiday season happening now. Because holiday season, how does it impact in the US? Because it's Thanksgiving, Black Friday, all this happens. So already a lot of campaigns are happening. So brands don't want to take on another new thing at this point in time. So like this, you keep drilling down into the five whys is a effective approach that you could explore doing to drill down for problem solving. The other thing that we also do is once you identify the root cause is like to explore the breadth of possible options that we could be taking to address the problem. And so that's something else that we work towards doing. So uh, if suppose let's say in this particular case, right, outreach wasn't working through Instagram, right? Is there anything else uh, like in this case, let's say we forget this was not holiday season, it was like a business as usual kind of scenario. Maybe businesses are moving off that platform or something, or maybe they're exploring TikTok or others in the US, which have started getting a lot more popular. Then we'll also explore getting on those. So it really depends on the case, but I think just drilling down into why is, I think, step one that we try to dig, and then look at possible options that might lead us down to a better solution.
So basically, on the basis of we have to kind of see in a perspective of top to bottom in order to analyze the
Yeah.
root cause
Yeah.
of the same. So what would you do, or what approach you prefer to if most of the root causes are external factors?
Mm-hmm. See, if it is external, one you would recognize. So they are not really in your control, right? So you cannot influence that much. So then you will try to see what you can actually do with regards to what you can actually influence internally to address the issue. And there are some cases where now I'll give you another example. Like let's say there is not enough demand, right? Or let's say you're doing paid ads, right? Unit economics are not working out. So people are not, there's not enough demand for it. There's no point like investing more money in that direction just because you have to achieve an objective. You drop that, see if there's something else you can work towards. So just give me 1 second. Calling. Yeah, so that's what I would say.
Yeah, so also I can also resonate the same with the current political election as well going on. So that is also one thing that can be taken into consideration, right? As an external factor. Yeah. Thank you so
Hmm.
much.
Okay, cool. Thank you. Any more questions, others?
I have a question. Hi, Ram Chaitanya. So my question is, you said like you did agriculture and you studied about climatic changes and all, but how are they related to organizations or companies that are present in US? Because you did agriculture and all in India.
Right. Okay, so I'll give you context why I focused on the US market or primarily. It's because, see, if you see per capita emissions, right, on average emissions, the Western countries are like 5 to 10x higher compared to an average Indian, right? Like if you see India, right, especially excluding like maybe urban parts of the top 1 2% of the population, the rest of the population is by and large very sustainable. Maybe there's some plastic usage or something, but by and large, it's very sustainable, right? So you kind of try to address the root cause issue, right? And that is primarily happening in the US. So that was one of the reasons why we focused there. And also, if you even take from the standpoint of people who are thinking about sustainability or have the ability and willingness to pay, it's primarily more interest in the Western country like US or Europe. So that was another reasons why we focused on those markets.
So,
Also, I'll give you a second order,
Mhm.
third order effects of this. Okay. So the thing is, let's take fashion, okay, like clothing. If you take organic cotton, for example, India is like 90% of the producer of organic cotton. And where does it get sold? Like almost everything gets sold in Western countries. So it has like second, third order effects, but directly you will not see the impact of that. Also, another second, third order impact is if you, okay, just look around you in this meeting. How many of you are wearing traditional Indian ethnic wear and how many of you are wearing clothes influenced by the US? So we are generally always depend on Western, whatever West feels, you kind of adopt that. So I feel like it's best to address it there. So change trickles down. That was another thought process.
Thank you for the answer. And I have another follow-up
Yeah, please go
question.
ahead.
So like I'm not getting like how agriculture can be related to organization development or sustainability.
Okay. I'm sorry, I didn't
Like
understand. Is that a question?
yes, like agriculture, you said like you went through it through the agriculture, you did your own organic like agriculturing and all. How it can be related to the organization or like Ecovisor per se your company. So like why was the agriculture motivation for you? Or is it the motivation to go for this company, agriculture?
I'm not sure I fully got the question. Let me just frame it back if I got it right. So, is your
Mhm.
question like, why did you do agriculture and why are you doing this now? Or is it like, are you
And
saying
I'm
that?
asking how are they related?
So they both are two different things. I'm not doing organic cultivation now. I said I used to do it before I started Ecowiser. And
Okay.
one of the insights I got from that is a lot more consumers need to be aware and educated. And I also felt like that agriculture. I just gave a journey of my own journey because Paridhi was mentioning like just share about my
Okay.
journey. So I just shared my journey. It wasn't that I'm doing both at this point in time.
Okay.
I had one question. So
Yeah.
you shared your journey and it has a lot of things in it. Like you've done multiple things, right? Or organic farming. Currently there's Ecovisor. You've led mindfulness programs as well for people in leadership positions and so on. So um, how do you sort of, balance experimenting with all these things and also maintaining like a sense of stability? because all these ideas are so independent of each other. And although there are some common themes that I can see, like there's the idea of sustainability, there's the idea of being mindful in what we do and how much resources we consume. So are all these things sort of interconnected to each other through certain themes, or is it more of trying out whatever interests you and sort of figuring out what you'd like to stick with?
Yeah, I think what I've ended up doing generally most times is like I've seen like something bothering me, and I feel like if more people might be aware of a better way, it might be. I'll give an example. Maybe it'll be easier to understand. So in Google, right? Like I was 23, 24. I had done like this 10-day silent meditation retreat. It was called Vipassana and all that. And then I noticed that I was post that I was practicing regularly, and I noticed that I was much calmer and happier as a person for no particular reason. And I felt a lot of stress is like self-created. We are generating ourselves, and we blame external circumstances. And I was surprised that very less was being spoken about. Generally, I mean, this is again more than 10 years ago. People generally, when they do stress management and all that, they would maybe take you through some course or something or some, but it wasn't like practically like, or they say go listen to some music or sleep more or eat better or something like that. But I think there's a lot of correlation between your breathing and mental space, and very less in organizations, at least it wasn't like spoken much. So I felt more people would be better if they were exposed to this, and that is why I thought of this. And Google, that was very open to trying things out. So they were very happy to, and it was based in a lot of research there, it's backed by evidence. So people are also happy to try it out. And regarding sustainability, it was more like a problem I saw around me. I hate the pollution that we deal on a daily basis. Also, like when you hear about things like farmer, the one who's giving you food is not having food to eat and is suffering, right? These things do make you think as to like, you feel the pain, and then you're like, okay, what is there something I can do about it? So it mostly for me, it stemmed from a personal thing. There were also a lot of things I've done. I've not mentioned everything, but I would do things for free because I wanted to learn or understand something. Like, this is again a few years back. I just went to some villages and started working with some nonprofit on this like solar rooftop, like, for lights and all that. So to and then worked on some revival project because I cared about. So it really varies. So there, wherever I felt like I wanted to do something, I would try and do that. It was more for my own, and I think there's a lot of uh, personal fulfillment for me when I do. So I've tried to always. That's something very important, that I'm doing something that's important for me.
Understood. Thank you. Anyone else has any other questions?
Yeah, I have a question. So I wanted to ask about the culture of your organization, like what aspects are or what cultural practices are unique to your organization.
One thing I always try to inculcate is, I mean, among people, everyone is that of this growth thing or like constant experimentation and trying new things. Because one, things keep changing. Second, we don't necessarily know what will work. You might read something, it might have worked for somebody, but may not work in my own circumstances. So basically, setting up a lot of experiments and testing things out for 2 to 4 weeks to validate if it's working. And if it's working, you scale up, otherwise you stop it. So that I think is something that we try to really focus on.
So based on Pratibha's question, I sort of had a follow-up question. So when we're as an organization or as even as a founder or an individual, when we're trying out different things and pivoting based on, what works and what doesn't, to figure out the right um, idea or the right product to focus on. So, what are some things that you would say one should keep in mind from an organizational perspective and also from just a fiscal financial perspective when it comes to pivoting very frequently and experimenting with ideas?
I think one, you should, before you set up, before you do any experiment, one, you'll probably have a laundry list of these are the 10 things I want to do. So first, prioritizing what you feel feel will have the best outcome for you. And there, and regarding the finances thing, you can set a budget, like, I'll spend $500 or 1 lakh or 50,000, whatever, and I'll dedicate 10 hours of three people's time to run this experiment for the next 2 weeks or 4 weeks. And a clear objective is based, go, no go. So let's say we are doing some experiment to increase the conversion rate by 10%. So whatever changes you plan to make on the site or in your process, right? And then you will set clear objectives, and then you will run the experiment and then compare how you're doing. So that is what you work towards. I think having that clear prioritization of and what outcome you're looking to do, and you'll also have like likelihood of that working out. So some of it is based on your own hunches, and then you take a call.
I had a question. You said that you selected to work on the majorly the Western countries because firstly their carbon footprints are higher as compared to India, and the demand there is higher. So how do
Hmm.
you think we can drive that consumer demand here in India? How can we drive the consumer demand for more sustainable practices or sustainable product?
See, I think if you see, right, for food, there's already some level of demand, but when it doesn't necessarily translate as much to fashion or to skincare. I think because people are ingesting something, then they're thinking more about it, but uh, the other segments have not. So one, I think again, it comes down to a lot more people need to be a lot more educated about it. Also, if you see generally, even like, government also can do a role. Like, I mean, they do a lot with regards to like renewable energy push. If you see like solar and even like distributed, even rooftop now, even homes, they're pushing like that. More awareness needs to be. And the other thing is, the bigger issue is that, we most companies are not paying true cost. When I say true cost, what I mean is, let's say you break up let's say a fashion garment like a shirt into the core components. One is materials used, then the labor workers who are required to make the garment, and the other additional things like processing of the thing and all, right? Usually, especially with regards to wages, people are not necessarily paid like fair wages, let's say, while it's ethically produced. And the second part was like regarding processing, right? Especially in like smaller factories and all, they discharge a lot of the waste and all into the water bodies and all, and creates a lot of things. So the true cost people are not paying, and it's largely because of poor regulation. So we need better regulation, and so that way people are actually paying true cost. Then the garment will not be as cheap. I think you should just reflect a little bit. You're getting a shirt for 500 rupees now. 10 years back, also the shirt maybe was 500, maybe even more expensive. How is garments getting cheaper when you have inflation and other things? So these are questions you should also be thinking as a consumer. Who has been like deprived of a fair livelihood or fair thing when some of this garment was made? I think if people are just asking, like, nobody, see, generally when you see a shirt, you say, oh, I like this design, I'm buying it. They're not thinking, is this made with the was the soil treated well, or was the worker paid fair wage? I think people don't ask these questions enough. So I think that mindset isn't even there. So getting that, it's not an easy thing. A lot of conditioning has happened, so it takes a while to do all of that.
Thank you.
Any more questions?
Okay, I would have a question. Like,
Yeah.
how do you create, like, when you're building an organization from the start, how do you create that system? I would like to know from you.
So when you say system, what do you mean? Like organizational structure? What do you mean exactly by system?
Yeah, the structure, I would say, how do you create that structure?
See, the thing is, the first thing when I started Ecowiser, I had this general goal like we need to educate consumers on doing better. giving them better options. But I didn't know necessarily know how we'll do it. Okay, so that itself is a process. So we had used this thing called jobs to be done. I don't know if you all are aware. JTBD, it's acronym. If you just do a Google search, you'll find it. So we use that framework largely to like determine what kind of solution would actually be relevant to educate consumers. To first, like, you do user studies, you talk to a lot of people, what are the biggest pain points you all are facing, and then based on that you brainstorm what are the potential jobs they're trying to accomplish, and the jobs, based on the jobs they're trying to accomplish, what is the potential solutions you can develop. Based on the solutions, what are the products you can develop. So that's a process we did, and we actually started the browser extension. Let's say you're shopping on Amazon, the extension would show sustainable alternatives. So that was the starting point. So once you've developed, once you think of the product, then you start working on development. For that, you will have to hire developers and a designer. So that starts to take shape. And then once you have that, then you test it in the market. And then if you're seeing some traction, or if it's a B2B solution, and if it's getting traction, then you hire like maybe a salesperson to like start doing calls. So it's like a one after the other. It's a sequence of sorts.
Okay, thank you.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Yeah, so like as far as I understood, Ecovisor is focusing towards both consumers as well as brands, right? So like, are you connecting these two aspects? Like, are you connecting brands with customers? Are you keeping those two aspects separate? Are you catering these two aspects separately?
Right. So the first thing is we started off with a consumer focus completely, not on B2B. But then what we noticed after a year and a half to in, we started getting a lot more traffic to our site, 50K visitors or above. So more brands wanted to be featured on our website. So then we started also exploring the B2B side, where we thought, okay, rating brands on different sustainability parameters and recommending how they can improve. So that's how, it just grew organically to, so it's brands, because users are there, so brands are interested. So that was what happened.
Okay, so like can also, like, you also create programs where you can connect these consumers to these brands,
Yes,
for
on the platform we connect. So basically, we list different products, right? And also we rate brands. So when a user clicks on any of them, they go to the brand site.
right. Okay.
Anyone
So
else?
I would
Anjali, go ahead.
just,
Go
yeah.
ahead.
Yeah, so I just wanted to ask, as what would be the one advice you would give to us if, one of us wanted to start a business or entrepreneurship in sustainability? Like,
Right,
how can one start the
right,
initial stage?
right. So firstly, sustainability is very broad. There are so many things happening. I think if you're interested in sustainability, is there any subspace within sustainability that you are actually really interested in?
I don't know if it would come in sustainability, but yeah, I would. I always, thought I would work with, taking care of animals and
Okay.
trying to, yeah, make a space for them where we can actually, you know, I don't like dogs on roads and they're, getting harmed and damaged for food and everything. So it's a
Mm-hmm.
very long term dream. But yeah.
Okay. Okay. Nice. Thank you for sharing that. So maybe I'll just dig into this example a little deeper. So
Mm,
one is dogs. The other, if you take animals more broadly, there is also, biodiversity. If you take, every year you have, like, we're losing diversity at an alarming rate. Okay.
yeah.
Alarming rates, very, very, I mean, and we might think that it's okay. It's not actually, other species do a lot for us. We don't, all the dung and all, like, cows and other animals, it's actually very helpful to build the soil, because a lot of these animals are disappearing. A lot of the ecosystems are breaking down as well. Okay, and because of this, why I'm bringing this up is, and because you're interested in animals, there's something called rewilding that's happening. You're basically trying to repopulate some of these species that are actually very important for an ecosystem to exist. And also, they are, no, people now have, think from a carbon lens. So they also help sequester carbon. It's also a very narrow lens, carbon and all, but that's how most people are oriented towards. So you could explore. If you're particularly interested in animals, rewilding is something you could explore. See, the process you might do is like one, talk to different people who are really interested in animals, or people who are trying to do something related to animals. You'll get different perspectives. Then also from a sustainability angle, you can research about different organizations, whatever they're doing regarding this like wildlife protection and animal protection and all. So that's how that could be a good starting point, just doing a lot of discovery calls, because there's so much to explore.
Yeah.
And also there's a very good book called Mom Test. I would highly recommend anybody who wants to start to read it. I'll just send it in the chat. It'll take you only 2 hours, and it's a life skill you will build on just how to ask good questions. It's called Mom Test. So it's only 80 pages. It's only 2 hours. Everyone, whoever wants to ever start anything, or if you want to do any kind of research, user research, it's a very good book. I would please read it.
Okay. Thank you. Actually, you
Thank
gave
you.
me a lot of terms that, one can go and first research about.
Yeah, I'll also send that other thing, rewilding. It's
Yeah.
gotten a lot more traction, rewilding, the chat I've just sent it. Yeah.
It does sound unsafe though.
Sorry?
It does sound unsafe, repopulating breeds. Sounds very not very organic.
Okay. Basically, you're protecting like certain species which are very important. I mean, like when I say it's not like the dog breeding that you see where people are like
Yeah.
trying to breed specific species like as pets and all, not that kind of breeding. But like there are certain species that protect it's more like conservation. It is not like pets kind of thing I'm talking about when I say rewilding.
Okay. Got it.
I sent you in the chat. Just Google search the term. It's more like ecological restoration. It's not about what you see about dogs, where they're mass created in like
Yeah.
shelters of sorts. So, no, I don't mean that when I say rewilding. They're two very different things. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
See, the thing is, if you ask me, the best thing is like you don't destroy the forest. Okay, but we are living in I mean, this is a very idealistic lens, but there are people's have their own needs and demands and stuff, and generally our forests uh, things the rights of environmental rights are like just scaling down. If you even see people are just liberally starting new no, they've laxed very lax our environmental laws. They're becoming more and more lax. So the ideal thing is let the forest be. You don't touch the forest, but that is not happening. So these are all more like patchwork solutions. Best thing is like you let the forest be. Don't touch it. Or even this 111 geo. I don't know how many of you are based in Hyderabad. So people are trying to build, get that removed so they can build more. You should let them be. You shouldn't meddle with it. That's the ideal practice. So if you want to do something, if you think if you ask me what is ideal, like try to prevent them deforestation from happening in the first place. Maybe you can work towards that otherwise. Yeah. But there may be no business model around that. So just you will have to think what you want to do. Like, you really want to dedicate your life to this, or you want to think. Also, we've been trained to think from a business or a business model or economics model. So you'll have to see what resonates with you, and you can pursue that accordingly.
Yeah.
I have a question regarding that last statement that you said about for deforestation. Yeah, so like the usual assumption that goes with companies and people destroying forests is about solely from the business perspective. Like they mostly want to expand their businesses, and that's why they are cutting down forests. So, like, how is it possible that they can encash their profits and expand their businesses without, going for any non like harmful environmental methods? Like, how can we, convince them?
See, the thing is, maybe I'll take an example. It just might be easier to understand. See, how is a business expanding, right? Because there is a demand for something, right? So that means maybe I'll take a simple example. Let's take oil, right? In India, people are crazy, consume oil like crazy. And so we're also importing oil, right? Uh, we're importing oil somewhere, one forest is getting cut down to create the oil. Like, I mean, I'm saying cooking oil, right? This is just an example. So now, if you go to the government and put a tender, like, we should not be cutting down this forest, right? Then they're like, look, we are not trying to do anything illegal or anything. There is a need for this thing, so we are just fulfilling that need, right? So that is generally the rationale that's given. Uh, so so it's not like a single thing that someone is trying to do evil or something like that. Uh, yeah, not enough protection is happening, but also people also should be more conscious of what they're consuming. Or if you take one of the biggest culprits with regards to deforestation, actually is like animal produce. Actually, let me ask all of you a question. Where do you think most land is actually being used? Who are using the most amount of land? Like, is it people? Who do you think in the entire planet Earth, where is most land going for? A lot of land is getting deforested because to grow, cultivate things. For whom is this cultivation for? Any
For
guesses?
large corporations and industries.
No, but why will large corporations do it for whom? Like, see, corporation will produce it, but for whom?
For
The
us.
consumers.
For us to
For us, the
consume.
People, consumers.
consumers.
No, it's not for consumers. If you take it, is actually for animals. Animals that you will slaughter eventually for food for humans, but the primary objective is actually primary thing is actually you for as food for the animals so that you can make them fat before you slaughter them. Okay, so that is generally the bulk of where deforestation is happening. So if you care about forests, maybe you can explore, like, if you are a meat consumer, can you reduce your meat consumption? That is something that you could explore. So because the corporation will say, see, I'm not trying to be evil, I'm just there's a need for this, so I'm just fulfilling that need. So but regulation also can play a role there, but the thing is there's also very strong lobby groups against reducing like getting the companies to reduce their own production.
I wouldn't really say a question, more like just a general thought. With all this discussion, I feel everything ultimately comes down to the rising population. Like the issues that we're having with being sustainable, the increase in pollution, increase in demand. Um, for some, all of it seems to be very intrinsically linked with, increasing population and the lack of any so do you think in the future or in maybe decades to come or something, there could be some way to make things more sustainable in terms of human population and ensuring a more sustainable growth rate for it? Because there are limited resources and we seem to be consuming them, without any restraint.
Right. I think there is no easy solution. Like, if suppose we are in a limited thing, the biggest thing is that, see, the biggest issue is that this is how I'll show you my phone. So it might just give you a perspective. This is how my phone looks. Okay, I'm having a screen like, okay. Are you able to see it or it's too blurry? Yeah, you see, this is how my phone looks. All notifications are off. Everything is off. Why I do that is because you're constantly bombarded by this, something or the other. Even like this, yesterday was Black Friday. If you go to the US, people are mad. They just shop like there's no tomorrow. They have to shop. You just see, like I lived there long back, so it's just crazy how much consumerism is there. So I think just thinking twice before you buy unnecessarily things. If you really need it, go ahead. Like if you really feel the need, but not because someone is saying you need it, but because you really feel the need for it. So, and also we are living in the society where we see others and then we inspired and we want to spend more. So I think these are things that we want to, you should, I think we need a more conscious society where people are thinking whether they really need something and they are going at it. And also like if you just cut down meat production completely, right, that's the biggest thing. If you just cut that out, you can eliminate 20-25% of the problem completely. We actually have enough land to feed population if suppose you just cut down like completely all animal produce, especially beef and other stuff which are extremely resource intensive, right? You can do 500x the amount of plants you can grow with the cost of like 1 pound, 1 kg of beef. So I'm just giving examples. So it is still possible with the population we have, but more conscious consumption is the most important thing. For that, you need a more conscious people. So they are all interconnected.
I just have one small question.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah. Yeah, so like as far as I understood, this entire process starts from us, the consumers. Like we need to change, only then the entire system would change, right? Right. Like our practices would ultimately reflect that.
So okay. Firstly, okay. There is some truth to that. We as consumers should be more conscious. People also, we should probably not call ourselves consumers because it's like consume, right? We are people. We are not consumers. We are people. I know these words have been fed into us. We have this thing, so we keep using consumers. So this is like a corporate language, consumers. Okay. So you may not see. It's a very subtle thing that we need to consume. It's just subtle marketing. All these things are okay. So why I'm bringing this up is we as people can play a role, okay? And the best role you can actually do is like write to your, where are you based? Sagnik, is that the right way to say your
Yeah,
name?
yeah, yeah. Sagnik. I'm from India, Kolkata.
Kolkata, okay. Maybe write to your, like the MP, MLA there or the government, right? Hey, why can't we see better options? Why are there no better regulations on anything that is bothering you? I think we as people are not really asking for. See, we are a democracy, so ideally you should be voicing whatever things are not okay, right? Maybe start there because uh, there's a system in place and that you're following that system. You know why I've muted everything on my phone? Because this device is designed in such a way that you're constantly expected to like keep engaging with the phone and like keep buying stuff, and it's become so seamless. There's also, I think, very recently a documentary on Netflix. I forgot the name of it, but it's about this whole consumerism and how we are constantly bombarded to buy stuff. So I think one part is like you be more conscious, but more than that, as people, we should really, if you feel something is not okay, write to the government, write to voice your opinion, like collectively, other friends and all, write collectively. I think that's how because there's a system in place. If you want to do something, you should try to change it because then it'll trickle down to a lot more people.
Yeah, just a
Just, yeah.
follow-up to that, writing MLAs and addressing to the government, these issues are all part of creating an awareness about one particular
Yeah.
problem.
And also, maybe you all have thought of this already, but actually, it doesn't take much effort. It takes only 5-10 minutes of your time. Like you can use GPT if you chat GPT if you want to just compose the mail. If you all don't want to sit and type it out, but it's not taking a lot of time. And finding emails, you can just search online, you'll find emails, or you can pick up the numbers are also. So it's not very difficult to get in touch. But or change.org, file up, no, start a so there are a lot of ways you can actually influence. But I think just you shouldn't try to say that I'm at fault. No, there's also like you see what you can do, but also try to see if you can influence in a larger way. That's something you should explore doing. Yeah.
Yeah, like this is something that has been, I think that is done, that has been practiced many times. Like many people do it, like addressing to government, to the issue, spreading awareness within ourselves, our communities. And the thing is, I'm not saying that it doesn't work, it works, but the process sometimes is very long. So, like, can we create a system where we can, incentivize this process, where we can create an incentive for those who actually practice the sustainable system? So which can actually make the system much more faster for people to adopt these particular practices. Like, is it possible?
See, something to just think through also, right? let's say just I gave the example of fashion garment. I think I'll just if you think through that, right? I told true costs need to be factored in, right? Now you're making it so cheap, so more people want to buy it, even if they don't need it, they just keep buying because it's so cheap. So when you pay true costs, you will be more conscious. Do I really see now? Let's say a shirt is 2,000 rupees. I'm not saying that's the what it should be priced, but you will think twice instead of it's 500 rupees, right? So firstly, true costs need to come in. So for that, regulation needs to come into better regulation needs to come into play, right? So and also to your question point, I don't think enough is actually being done by people. There are very few people who actually voice out. Most people are just busy in their day-to-day life doing their own things. So that is we need a lot more people doing that. Why I'm sharing this is also like all of you can also think of if something is bothering you. Let not there be initiative. Also, you'll see very few people doing it. So people are not even aware. Like you just ask yourself, Sagnik, how many of your friends, like, or people that you ever interacted, have ever gone and like maybe filed for a right to information, something they wanted, or written to the government? Just look in your circle. Like I'm fairly confident it'll be under 1% or zero. That's my
No,
guess.
it's more like people are aware of it but are not interested in taking
Acting, yeah, they're
actions
not
for it.
acting. That's exactly what I'm saying. If they're aware but you're not acting, it's not really changing or improving anything, right? That's what I'm trying to get to.
Yeah, I've got it.
All
We
right.
can say we can say that we are being ignorant in this regard, right? We are just ignoring, my work is getting done, so yeah, it's it's more like that.
Okay. In case no one else has any more questions, I think we can take 3 reflections now, and then we can close the session. Mr. Chaitanya, is there anything else you would like to add in first?
Nothing. Again, thank you everyone. It was nice. I'm glad it was interactive and it wasn't like a monologue. So I really enjoyed the conversation. So thank you everyone for making it engaging.
Thank you. Right. Okay. Okay. Yeah. 3 reflections. Who would like to go first?
Should you want me to drop off or do I stay in?
Uh, we would prefer it if you can stay, but in case you have any other engagements.
I can go on for another 5 minutes. After that, I'll probably drop off. Okay.
Sure, sure. Right. Who would like to take the initiative of sharing the first reflection? Sagnik, how about you go first?
Yeah, like essentially what I understood was that the entire concept of sustainability is something that we already know, that we already practice in our daily lives, but it is something that we are not essentially acting towards for acting like towards that. And it is not that like what I thought initially before this entire conversation that I had with Mr. Ram Chaitanya was spreading awareness is like probably the only way and the like I don't know whether this word fits in this or not. The worst way of solving any particular problem, because I have seen people spreading awareness, creating programs, writing to municipalities and governments about particular issues, but still the issues have not been addressed. So I thought probably we can create a process where we can incentivize the system. I'm not just saying from a financial incentive, but any other incentive. But now I understand that if we instead of just spreading awareness, if we can create this entire concept of urgency within every particular individual about everything, what they eat, what they wear, once they get an awareness of that, once they get an awareness and knowledge of everything, from everything from where the products that they're consuming is coming from. So I think educating the population about these aspects is very much important in today's world. That's what I understood from this entire conversation.
Thank you, Sagnik. Yeah, Archana, please go ahead.
So my major learnings from this is like the main thing, it should start from us. The sustainability is not like telling or doing like posting or creating awareness or some campaigns, but people should understand from us if we are getting something for cheap, it's like we need to think, why are we getting that for cheap? What are the other means? Is it like so easily if we are getting means there is something going wrong behind it? It's like everything is interconnected in an ecosystem and people should become more conscious, not like companies only, the factories should become conscious, but people also should become conscious, then it resonates in the factories. And every person should take initiative for sustainability. Like we need to question why it is happening. We can't be very silent about, okay, it is happening, what is there for with me? These are my learnings.
Thank you, Archana. And same, I think I would just like to add on to that as well. A lot of times, I feel we sort of disregard the need to think about the true cost of things or to think about how to be sustainable because we live in the sense of, it's okay, I have a lot of expenses to take care of. Maybe someone who is more privileged or in a better position, maybe they can focus more on being sustainable because I am sort of just trying to, exist, live life as far as possible. So we tend to shirk off that responsibility of taking better decisions that are better for society, decisions that are better for environment. But ultimately, if we really think about it, we all have more privilege compared to someone else. Like sure, we might not all be in the top 1% of society, but the people who are actually creating the products that we purchase, the products that we consume, they are more likely than not living in much worse conditions. So it doesn't matter if we can't do a lot, but whatever that an individual can do, I think the whole discussion made me reflect on that it would be a good idea to at least start somewhere rather than, only expecting someone else to take on that onus of responsibility for being sustainable. Okay, so since there are no other questions or reflections, I'll end the session now. Thank you, everyone.